more people have spent time watching those videos than the total hours that were contributed to the moon landing.
Whoa, okay.
It's not super high production quality.
Because clearly you're converting folks.
I never posted this video expecting it to blow up.
How do you create that sort of emotional bond?
I think I'm actually closer to 45 or 46 million views.
Oh man, my math is so bad.
This is where my entire content creation process lives.
Yeah, that.
The thing that gets conversions is...
Nate Hoskin, welcome to the Augmented Advisor.
Thank you for having me, John. I'm so excited for this.
Me too, man. Me too. I love that you are our inaugural visit on our reboot that is all about creators, for creators, and wealth management. And I'm just so excited.
I love what you're doing right now. I think that content and media in general for advisors is really the untapped frontier. And it's something that a lot of advisors are not quite ready to embrace yet. But the ones who do are going to be the ones with the competitive advantage. That I'm sure of.
No question. And I think we should talk a little bit about you and why our listeners should care. So first, for those advisors out there, Nate isn't some just millennial creator that happens to talk finance. Nate is a CFP with a real practice. But Nate is also somebody who's a killer creator. And when you'll take a look at his profile, and I saw this, I heard about it. You were on a webinar, and where I first heard about it, and it totally blew me away. So you've got a presence on TikTok with 226,000 followers, which is a crazy number, but the numbers get crazier. Over 4 million likes of your videos. And even though I couldn't find this number directly, by my calculation, it looks like you've got about 20 million views on your videos. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think across all 785 videos or something of that sort, I think I'm actually closer to 45 or 46 million views.
Oh man, my math is so bad. Sorry about that.
We actually went, it's okay. We went and did the math because Nick, my co-founder, and I wanted to know how many aggregate videos we had. And as a co-founding team, we were at 350 million or something of that sort. He, of course, brought the lion's share.
Oh my word. That is, did you ever price that out? Like, that is an insane amount of organic reach that you guys have built with blood, sweat, and tears, but not by spending any money. This is all organic.
Right. Yeah. For me, I went and I actually mathed it out to see what it would cost to get the amount of impressions that I get per week if I were doing it through paid ads. And if I was paying for specific keywords, things like financial advisors, that sort of thing in search, or I was paying on Instagram parts per mil, just doing the impression game, it would cost me about $18,000 a week.
Oh, oh man.
Yeah.
That is crazy, and crazy valuable, right? I mean, yeah, that it's amazing that that's even possible, because 15 or 20 years ago, that was just not possible.
Or anywhere near. I mean, it was really around who you could talk to. That was your reach. The amount of people that you could have a conversation with, that was very much just the amount of people who would know what you do, or who would maybe have an understanding of your practice or of your expertise, was simply the amount of people that you could have a conversation with. Nowadays, you can have a conversation with 100,000 people.
Which is just insane. It's hard to wrap your head around, really. And in order to help our audience wrap their head around this, we're going to do a number of things. I think this is going to be a fantastic discussion. So first, I want to take a bit of a deep dive. I want to pull apart a couple of these big videos that you've had, because you've had several videos north of 4 million. I think there's at least 3 videos that are north of 4 million views, one at 7.1. So I want to pull that apart and actually talk about, okay, what made this video work? And then zoom out a little bit and try and talk about the ways in which you kind of separated yourself from all those folks who don't have very many views. And then later on, I want to help the audience learn a bit about how you approach the work and what's your system for managing videos, and how do you think about your production, et cetera. And what, we'll zoom that in. We're going to do a little bit of screen sharing. So for those of you on audio, we'll try and describe this to you, but I definitely encourage you to pop over to the video if you're interested in the aspects of this that we're talking about. And let's take a look, man. 7.1 million views on this video.
Okay, I thought the spinner arm rest was cool, but you haven't even seen the half of it. All right, so check this out.
People in the top 1% of wealth in the United States buy this truck, the Ford F-150, more than any other vehicle in the world. Why? Because this truck is heavy enough to qualify for a Section 179 deduction. This means that if they use the truck in a trade or business, they can deduct the entire purchase up to a cap of $1,040,000 in that given year. Usually, when you buy a car, you have to depreciate it, which means you can't reclaim the cost of that asset in 1 year. But thanks to Section 179, they can deduct the cost of this car in that year against their income taxes. It is huge tax savings and an incredible little loophole.
All right. So first, no offense, Nate, but that is some boring stuff, right? For a lot of folks, that would be boring.
Oh, yeah.
And you delivered 7.1 million views on this. So what's going on here?
Well, I think the most disappointing response that I give whenever someone asks, why did this video do well? Why did it perform so well? The short answer is, I have no idea. Because the videos that I have that went so completely unbelievably viral, I did not post them expecting them to go viral by any means. I never posted this video expecting it to blow up the way that it did. Because as you said, boring content. It's about a tiny little tax deduction that only applies to business owners who are making a lot of money. It's not very applicable to people. It's not really something that's super relatable, and yet it absolutely grabbed people. And so I think that there were a couple of things that went really, really right with this video. The first one is,
hey all, if you're enjoying what you're watching or listening to, please follow or subscribe. It lets us know we're on the right track. Also, if you know of any creator in wealth management that we should have on the show, let us know in the YouTube comments section, on LinkedIn, or you can email us at podcast@blueleaf.com. Thanks.
the fact that I grabbed someone else's hook. So what I mean by that is I used this, like, this is not me. This on TikTok is called a stitch, where you grab the first 5 or 3 seconds of someone's video, and then you use that to roll into your video.
So let's talk about what a hook is, just so that we keep the audience with us. So if you're a new creator, a hook is the very first thing you see on a piece of content. So if you're on LinkedIn, the first line or two that you see, and its job is literally to do exactly that: hook you, pull you into the content, and start that journey. So, So what you're saying, Nate, is that you grabbed that first 3 seconds, 5 seconds from somebody else's video. Now, I don't know that person. Is this famous or no?
Yes. So a very, very popular creator, totally out of my industry. He is a car creator. He's constantly talking about different vehicles. And right now he's currently breaking down the F-150 and talking about what's interesting about the vehicle. But his video got a lot of views. I mean, it has almost 5 million likes.
Wow.
And so this was an extremely successful video that I then riffed off of. And so that definitely helped. And I have used that in the past to great effect. It is not always as effective. Like, I don't necessarily think someone could build their entire following on using stitches and using other hooks and that sort of thing. But it totally worked in this situation.
So it's a proven hook, though. I think that's one of the keys here. That's is interesting is you can borrow from other creators, whether like literally directly copy and paste, or simply borrow conceptually hooks that work. And
Right.
and that can get you a lot further, a lot faster if you're trying to build your audience and connect with them. So I think that that's fantastic. What else are you seeing here now that you're thinking about this video?
Yeah. So one thing that I really want to point out is that it's not super high production quality, right? Like if we go to like right here in the video and we listen really, really closely real quick, reclaim the cost of that asset in 1 year. But thanks to Section 179, they can deduct the cost of this car in that year against their income taxes. Pretty much from like second 38 to second 40, you can actually hear my girlfriend in the background doing the dishes. Like there is nothing about this that is coiffed. There is nothing about it that is perfect. You can hear the fan in the background. I am lit overhead, which is like the number one rule of lighting, is that you don't use the big overhead light. And so I have some really weird shadows going on. It's just not perfect. And I actually think that that lent itself to the video really effectively.
Yeah.
Because when I'm not all dressed up and it's perfect video quality and perfect production, it's far easier to actually get into the video. There's not really a barrier to entry. And I don't know how else to describe it other than that. Sometimes people will feel like they are not qualified to watch a video because that person is in a different tax bracket. That person is just in a different intelligence bracket, whatever it happens to be. They're like, I'm not supposed to be here. And they will self-select and they will scroll. But for me, in a long sleeve shirt, sitting in my tiny little office in my tiny little apartment way back when, because this was, 2021 in March. So this was only 3 months after I started my content creation journey. I mean, it's very, very approachable. And I think that that really helped with this video.
Yeah, I think you're talking about something super important if you're a creator, which is really connection with the audience, right? And how do you create that sort of emotional bond pretty quickly and eliminate any barriers to it? And I think being like them is a big one. And it's interesting when you think about the way that a lot of financial advisors might approach this. You know, they're throwing on that shirt and tie and they're sitting high and they are being professional.
Right.
But maybe that's a barrier. Maybe that is one of the things that can prevent potential clients from sort of vibing with them. So, you know, really connecting with them online. Have you seen that a lot?
Yes. And that is my answer to what you were talking about earlier. How did I set myself apart? Why was it that I was able to push into the multi-millions of views and the millions of likes and the hundreds of thousands of followers, where some people end up in what we call view jail, which is where you just get stuck under 200 views and you just can't seem to break out. You can't seem to get any traction. And I think that the number one thing that I did that most people don't do is I gave viewers what they wanted, not what I thought they wanted. And I made a point of listening to what they were interested in and answering the questions they cared about instead of thinking that I knew what was best or I knew what they needed to hear. And so that's a weird difference because technically at some point I had to figure out what I thought they wanted in order to then turn it into a video. I had to do that analysis somewhere. But I think that I did a way better job than most creators at actually answering what they wanted and being generous first, making that my priority, rather than feeling like I was on some conquest to educate them about all the things they needed to. And that's what I think separates the professor from the mentor, where it's like people seek out the mentor, people seek out what they have because it's what they want. The professor teaches what they think the student should know. And the difference in relationship is palpable.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, that's a lesson I feel like I need to learn. I'm more naturally a professor, and have taught classes and done that whole thing. And that just doesn't really create connection with folks, except maybe in person, but on video, it just doesn't work. It doesn't land.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about these kinds of topics, how much of it do you think about the emotion that you may connect to? So in that video, I'll give you, for instance, of what I'm asking about. I think there's an emotional aspect to that video, which is a bit of an undercurrent, which is the rich are doing something.
Yeah.
And they know something I don't. And I want to know that. Not only that, but wait, I get to beat the IRS because no one loves the IRS. And it just taps into a couple of emotional, little streams there that I think pulled people along in the video. And I'm curious how much you think about that when you make video.
I definitely do. I think that I was always very, very informationally driven when I was making videos. The goal was at the beginning was just to provide information as much as humanly possible. And I wasn't very into the science of how am I going to get someone to watch this? It was more, they might find this useful. 1 or 2 people out of the 7 million people that watch this might actually call their accountant and use this because they had to buy a vehicle for business. And so as I evolved on my content creation journey and as I learned more and as I started using it very much as a business funnel and starting to quantify my success on social media, not just by views, but by the amount of appointments that were being set on my calendar, I had to systematize it. I had to make it more consistent so that I could count on 3, 4, 5 new meetings every single week and use that to build my business.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to look at the emotional component. And I think that I learned a couple of things. One is that people love to know what other people are doing that they could be doing. There is a chasing after the Joneses or fear of missing out, that sort of impact where they're like, oh, someone else is doing this. I should see if I can do it, or I should see if I can benefit from it. Or maybe I'll get mad at the unfairness of the system and be like, oh, look, of course the tax system is rigged for the rich. I'm going to leave a comment saying that. And that's going to push the video. That's going to boost the engagement and get it in front of more people. And so I think by doing that, you can be mildly incendiary without having to just like spew vitriolic acid on the internet and like try to get people's hackles up or try to be political. You don't have to go that far. You can say something that will raise both opinions, both this is really cool and this is unfair. And those two will go to war in your comments. And that's what will boost the video. Because if we look at this video, 7.1 million 7.1 million views is impressive. But the thing that impressed me was the almost 5,000 comments. Yeah. Meaning almost 5,000 people took the time out of their day to actually give their opinion on the video. And I think that's what truly led to its success.
Yeah, it's like a little community that comes together around that piece of content, but that's also then connected to you.
Right.
I mean, that's so powerful, really. And I want to talk more in a little bit about what you've learned about conversion and how you've systematized that. We're going to get to that. But I also want to know how in the world you got started on this journey, as an advisor and then as a creator.
I had the weirdest introduction to the workforce ever. And it was not pretty, but it worked. And I think it took a little bit of a little bit of grit to make it happen. But I really started as a data guy. When I was in college, I was in data analytics and data science and finance. My whole goal was to go into quantitative analytics and work for hedge funds and get my master's in financial analysis. That was my whole goal.
So TikTok wasn't your goal?
No, TikTok wasn't even on the menu, wasn't even a consideration. And so I actually started out there. I was writing code for a hedge fund consortium in California as I think I was a 19-year-old. I was just an intern and they had a tool they wanted to build. And I happened to get my foot in the door because I sent out 200 cold emails with my resume because I was like, no one wants an intern between their sophomore and their junior year. You get it between junior and senior, but I really wanted something. So I got in, started doing that, was super excited about it, and kind of burned out on it quick. And I was watching my uncle, who was a portfolio manager at Capital Group, and he was very much my career idol. And he actually died in 2018.
Sorry, man.
And I hate to say this, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I got to watch someone who was incredibly wealthy, incredibly successful, incredibly inspiring, die before he was able to take money out of his 401k.
Oh.
And so he introduced me to this idea of stored energy, that money is stored energy. And it completely shifted the way that I thought about money, and it shifted the way that I thought about helping people with their money. And so I said, I can't sit in the back room writing code to make billionaires richer. I need to go work with individuals. I need to go be a financial advisor. And so I made that job switch. I was lucky enough that my boss was able to make an intro to a small RIA in Orange County. And I got a job there and had a blast. I adore the owner of Pacific Investment Research. He's just great. But in 2020, we had COVID. And so the company had some serious losses. They decided to go in a different direction. And I got the knock on my door that said, hey, you're not going to be a part of our next direction. And so I was laid off from my job in April of 2020, and I graduated college in May of 2020. And I had no idea what to do. I was the most gainfully employed college student I had ever met. And I went to the bottom of the totem pole as the person who left college not knowing what their next step would be. And not to mention, we were in the middle of a pandemic. And so I studied for my CFP. I studied 8 to 9 hours a day for 3 months and finished everything. I think I'm still one of the youngest people to ever receive the letters because I got it at age 22. And so I was on the right track, but I had no direction. And so I decided that I would start my own RIA simply because no RIAs were hiring at the time. And I knew that later down the line, I could move my book over to a bigger shop if that was what I decided. If it was successful, maybe it would work. Great, we'll just test it out. And so I couldn't do the steaks, like the steak dinners. I couldn't do the more traditional, like how do advisors go and get clients? I couldn't go to networking events. I couldn't go to like community events where I could have conversations and meet people. So the question was, how do I get clients? And at this time, TikTok was just exploding. It was the new thing on the block. Everyone was excited about it. I had nothing to do. And so on January 1st of 2021, I said, I'm going to start making video content as a way of building Hoskin Capital. And I vividly remember saying, if I have 1,000 followers on June 1st of 2021, I will count this as a success and I'll keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, by June, I had 100,000 followers. So
yeah, things went a little better than you expected, I guess.
More than I ever could have imagined.
I think what you just said, though, for the audience is really important perspective. So this, if I have 1,000 followers, I'll count it as a success. So in 2008, there was this article, not exactly an article, but a little short manifesto written called 1,000 True Fans. And we'll link it in the show notes. But that is an important way of thinking about becoming a creator. The reason we want to learn from you, Nate, is because a lot of your techniques are going to help everyone who wants to be a creator, but you don't have to aspire to millions of followers or 100,000 or even 50,000. 1,000 true fans will make your business. Absolutely,
Yes.
no question. And I think that is a much more attainable, emotionally kind of satisfying place to set your sights. And if it goes bigger, great. But if it doesn't, you're still going to kill it. And I think that that's a super place to have started from. And I'd argue, as an outsider, that also set you up emotionally to be successful.
Yes. Well, and it meant that I didn't get stuck in the pit of despair where I just thought I was never going to be successful, looking at all the big content creators and saying, well, I don't have 226,000 followers, so I'm not good enough. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be going on this ski trip in March with the largest finance creators in the entire world.
I know, I'm so jealous, man. I'm so jealous.
I'm beyond excited, and I'm so happy that my good friend Genesis is putting this together. She's an awesome creator that I would totally recommend having on this podcast or just connecting with in general because
Absolutely.
She's phenomenal. And I don't have any imposter syndrome going into a room of people who have 2, 3, 4 million followers. And the reason for that is because it was never about the numbers. It was never about who's got more followers or who has more engagement or who's doing bigger brand deals or something like that. It was like, no, we all really, really care about helping the person who has no idea about money. And if one person watches it and they make a better decision with their credit card, or they open a Roth IRA in 2024, or they understand that you can go to Costco and you can buy alcohol for free. That's a little, sorry, not for free, just without the membership. That's a little hint towards one of the topics that I have on my planning system that I will show you guys. So you will see later in this episode, you'll see that I have a video that I'm about to post specifically about Costco. But when we're driven like that, like it's never about the numbers. And so if you make a video that gets 500 views, but one person makes a change as a result, then suddenly any clients that you might get from that effort is just gravy because you made the world a little bit of a better place. You made people more financially literate. You spoke out against all the scum that exists on social media.
Yeah.
Like that's the beauty of it. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be 50 views. You get 10 people to watch it and one of those people makes a change that helps them. You've helped. I mean, it's
right.
The reason that all of us should want to be part of this business. And I know talking to our customers and advisors around the country that most of them are great people wanting to help. And the power of media for me and why I'm so interested in what you do and what all those creators do is it leverages that desire. And instead of helping one-on-one or one on 100, it's one on 1,000, one on 1,000,000. And that really extends our impact as an industry, which is so phenomenal. But I want to turn attention to something else here, which is you had really quick early success, but it ain't all roses, right? I mean, you still post videos that relative to your high standards don't do all that well. What do you struggle with now as a creator?
I think the thing that I struggle with the most as a content creator right now is the fact that I have covered a lot of the bases. I've talked about Roth IRAs far too much. And I've really just I've run the gamut on content and I've told people a lot about what I want them to know. And so it feels hard to recreate videos along those same topics, but it also feels hard to dive into the more complicated components of financial planning without feeling like I'm becoming a professor or I'm just getting overcomplicated, or I'm niching down too much. And so that's been a big challenge for me, but it's also been a huge win because nowadays I'm making way more complicated videos. I'm making longer videos. I just did a huge video on RSUs. I just did a huge video on ISOs, like really diving into things that people do not understand and are not easy to explain simply.
Yeah. I feel I saw, did you post about RSUs recently?
I did. That one was a couple weeks ago, and I think it went to LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. Because I feel like I was the one who jumped in about double trigger versus single trigger.
Yep, exactly.
I think that's fantastic. But along those lines, I'm curious, I'm a big Gary V fan, Gary Vaynerchuk, for those of you who don't know, huge creator, very famous in the social world, and really prescient in understanding what is going on in the world of social media and media generally. And he says something really interesting, and I'm curious to get your take given what you just said. He said that I talk about the same 7 things over and over again in a million different ways.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's the way to go. I think that talking about those 7 things and picking your 7 things will give you 5 years of content, no problem. And I also think that it adds a level of consistency to your content that makes it so that people come back and they know exactly what they're getting from you. It's reliable. And I think that is absolutely important to do. But the other side of that is that some creators will just rehash the exact same video every couple of months. And one of my big fears as a creator is just adding to the noise. And I struggle with this quite a bit, that I wonder if I'm just like adding to the white noise of the world, if I'm just something that people can scroll on so that they can avoid actually taking action on their financial life or going outside or something like that. And so I really try not to make the same content and to constantly be expanding it for the people that are watching, because and we can probably do this, but if we look at the analytics on my viral videos, more people have spent time watching those videos than the total hours that were contributed to the moon landing.
Whoa. Okay.
Like that is just how much time, when you have a 44-second video and people watch it millions and millions of times, you end up with thousands upon thousands of hours that are dedicated to watching my mug talking about a random niche tax savings. And so that's definitely something that I struggle with. And as a result, I'm constantly trying to find something new to talk about and find the new interesting things so that people feel like they're constantly moving forward in their financial literacy instead of just scrolling something they know enough about, but now it's in a new format.
Yeah. So I can speak to this more as a consumer than a creator, because I'm brand new as a creator, really. But I can tell you that for me, it's super useful to hear the same kind of thing over again in different ways and over time, because my personal life context changes. And so that message lands differently today than it did a year ago. And I think that's incredibly important. And the creators that I'm personally drawn to are the ones who are consistent, as you say, but find a way to bring a little different angle or update the context in a way that helps me see it freshly. Even if it's the same discussion about an RSU, as a for instance.
Right.
And the other thing I'd say is I heard something that I felt was profound when I heard it a month or two ago, when I was really starting to embark on my own journey. And it was that people subscribe to your profile, they follow you, they subscribe to your YouTube, or they follow you on TikTok, not because of the content they're watching right now, but because of the promise of the content to come.
Yes.
And the only way that promise makes any sense is if you've been consistent and you're not all over the place.
Right.
So to me, I mean, I think being a successful creator, when I look at what you've put out in the world, it does live in that sweet spot of, I'm talking about different things and different aspects of those things, but over a year or 2 years or 3 years, whatever the entire arc of your creative journey is, you're hitting those same topics over and over again, but you bring a different angle each time, which I think is just phenomenal. So I guess that leads us to this. So how do you do that question? So maybe you'd be able to talk a little bit about your creative system and sort of how you manage it and how you think about creating content and the like.
Absolutely. And you have hit on what I think will be the biggest problem for advisors getting into content creation is application. Because I'm sure, as you understand, you can have a specific topic, but it is applicable in different ways depending on where the client is. And so we always talk about that as financial advisors, where it's like, well, yeah, this thing exists, but it might not be relevant for your situation, or it might be relevant, but in this different, interesting way. And so for ISOs, if we use that as an example, some people might be using that as a way of building a significant amount of wealth in a company that they feel really confident about. Whereas for other people, it might crazy concentrate their portfolio. And so it's actually a bad thing if they exercise all of these shares and build up that much of a position. And we have to talk about diversifying them out. Then you have the crazy high earners who are going to get smacked with AMT. So they have to take disqualifying dispositions. You have one topic that can be talked about in different ways based on how they apply to a specific person. And I think that that is the most brilliant content strategy ever for advisors, is saying, all right, if you are in this position, this thing applies to you this way. If you are in this position, this thing applies to you this way. And so you are taking that one motif, as you said, talking about 7 things in a million different ways, but you are then making it applicable to a much wider group of people. And some people might grab over here, some people might grab over here, but they will all come into the fold. And so that is something that I focus on a lot, is that application. So let me show you kind of how I run my system and what I do.
Yeah,
so
I'd love to see this.
I do a couple of things differently simply because I'm able to do this at scale. So I will post a video a day. And so it is a chore, to say the least. And so I have done a couple of things to make that easier on myself. One is I have hired a video editing team, and that changed my life. Having a team that will put together and edit my videos and chop them up and then actually post them for me makes it so that I can be the idea guy and I can be the person on camera. I don't have to be wearing so many different hats. And so when you see this, you will see that a lot of it is dedicated to how I'm interacting with my video editors, not just how I'm interacting as a content creator.
And
so
as a tool, this looks like you're using Notion. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm using Notion, and this is a super simple template. I have this template available. We can put it in the show notes so that you guys can have exactly what I use. And this is where my entire content creation process lives. Whenever I'm thinking about content, regardless of the stage, I'm working out of this sheet. And then if I have to jump out to go film or go like talk to the editors, something like that, fine. But it always comes back to here. So if we look at the board, this is relatively simple because we just have different properties for each different video. We go all the way from scripting to posted. That's where we're sitting. And so if we look at scripting, these are actually mostly ideas. A couple of them have scripts. So we have, this one is currently empty because I haven't worked on it as much, or like this one has a more created script and we've got some screenshots in there for the things that I want to talk about. The scripting is where I'm brainstorming and ideating. And then when I'm ready, I will sit down and I will write the full script and move it to recording. And so this is a more built out script where we have each of the different sections. And I think that this is really important. And for the audio listeners, what we're looking at is my exact written script, but it's broken up into these tiny little chunks, 1 to 2 sentences. And the reason I do this is because when I'm filming, I will do one section. I won't read it off the script. I will memorize it and I will turn to the camera and I will film. And then I will turn back away from the camera and I will memorize the next section. That way it always feels conversational. It always feels like it's just rolling off my tongue, but I don't have to sit there for 4 hours and perfectly memorize it and do 20 takes to actually get all the way through it.
Yeah.
I can do a take that is 4 seconds long. And if I don't like it, I can just redo that take. And so it speeds up my recording process.
You know what's amazing about that
enormously.
Technique, Nate, is I've heard other creators talk about this. It actually reminds me of the way that a number of old rock and roll bands used to record their albums. So for those of you out there who are as old as I am, which is old, and were fans of the group Boston. So this is how Brad Delp used to record his vocals. 1 or 2 lines at a time. They just punch in a line and they do that line over and over again until they got that right. And then they move on and they splice it all together. Right. So virtually none of Boston's music is actually sung beginning to end in the studio. It's a line at a time and connected up. So if it's good enough for Boston and good enough for Nate, you might want to try it.
Well, and I love that analogy too, because then you can make that line perfect. Mm-hmm. Every single lyric, every single line through the entire song can be exactly as you want it to be, instead of taking the take that just worked the best, where it's like, all right, we really loved the first part of this song, but then we just had to accept the rest because we were so done and so burnt. We weren't going to keep doing these long takes. Instead, every single one can be perfect. So I love doing it this way, and it just makes my life so much easier.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Another thing that I will do is I will have multiple recording styles. So I really have 3 that I do consistently. I have my more professional style, which is sitting at my desk, speaking directly to the camera. I have my lounging style, which is where I'm sitting on this green chair over behind me. And I very much have a double chin, and I'm just talking to the camera as relaxed and lounging as I can.
You said that, and I literally pictured you in an ascot with a smoking jacket.
Yeah. No, it's usually in a t-shirt and just as casual as I can possibly get it. And then the other one that I have are my dialogue skits. So this is where I will, for lack of a better term, talk to myself. And I will play 2 characters back against each other.
I love
and
those.
They will work through a specific question. I love them too. They're honestly really fun to film too.
And part of me, one of the reasons I love them so much is because I'm not sure I've got the guts to do that, but I really admire folks who are willing to sort of throw in a little bit of acting and like play acting like that. And it makes it really fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's really engaging, and that's why I do this, is because the dialogue skits get traffic. They get significantly more views than any of my other videos, but they don't get a lot of engagement, and they get very, very few conversions. Whereas my professional and my lounging videos, those are the ones that convert people to being clients. And so I have this wide net that is my dialogue skit. And then I'm able to pull people into the fold and say, okay, here's actually what you can expect. Because I think I break the rule that you were talking about, where people follow you not for the content they're seeing, but for the promise of future content. And so people will often watch my dialogue skit, and that will trigger the engagement and they will follow. But then the next video they see from me is totally different and way more in depth and way more like focused on a specific topic. And I'm speaking directly to them. And the result is actually quite good, because then they're like, oh, this guy isn't just an actor. Mm-hmm. He actually knows what he's talking about. Here's him going deeper on a topic that I'm interested in. And so that bait and switch has actually been really beneficial for me.
Yeah, someone once described it to me as putting out content that's pretty wide at the top of the funnel, and then you get a little more in depth as people get to know you better, and it creates a deeper relationship. It creates a path for people to get to really, connect with you as a human who is multifaceted.
Right. Well, and then like your video that you make that is talking about your practice or is talking about why you do what you do or introducing yourself, those aren't going to get crazy views, but I have mine pinned to the top of my channels so that then when someone comes in and they're looking at my profile, they can learn who I am. They can learn what I do. They can learn what Hoskin Capital is all at the press of a button.
Right. Yeah. Because now they're asking for that, right? They're like, who is Nate? What's he about? And right. They can show up, and feel like they know you, which is one of the magic of video, right? Unlike any other medium, I feel like you get to know someone. You feel like you get to know them. I was talking to another creator a couple of months back, and she was talking about the experience of meeting someone in person for the first time, but they didn't feel that way. Generally speaking, her clients that she converts through all this video marketing feel like they already know her. And now she's getting to know them, but they already feel this deep connection, which I don't think any other medium can make happen.
I can give limitless examples of this, but I have a few that spring to mind immediately. And this is what Nick and I at N2, this is what we call building trust at scale, because there's just no other way that you can get someone to trust you when they've never met you before. And so the most recent one, so I actually go back every single year and I spend an hour and a half speaking to the business class at my high school, because I took that class. It very much put me on the right course in terms of thinking about money and making it a priority and thinking about investing. And so I always want to go back and contribute. But I always show up 30 minutes early and I go check in on all of my favorite teachers. And I just go say hi. And I have every single year. But this year in particular, they were all like, I feel like I just saw you yesterday. Like I haven't seen you in a year, but I have seen you every single day on Facebook or on Instagram. I know exactly what you're up to. Like I feel like I have just been friends with you and been constantly on speaking terms, even though you only ever come in once a year. And that's the only interaction that I have with my teachers. Another example is I had someone hit me up on TikTok and say, hey, I'm actually coming through Denver. Can we just grab a drink? And I was like, sure, why not? And we had the most fantastic evening because we didn't have to make any of the small talk. We didn't have to get to know each other because I was comfortable enough that this person knew me that I could ask them questions and we could really dive in. And it turned into an evening with a friend that I had never met before. And that will stick with me forever. And the final one that I think applies a lot to CFPs and to advisors in general is I just asked a prospect who scheduled a meeting with me, did you have a chance to look at my website? Because I've got all my pricing on my website. Sure. I've got an example plan you can look at. All these answers to these questions that you're asking, like I can actually send you deliverables for them. And the guy went, I know you so well that I did not even consider going to your website. I just booked the meeting.
Yeah, that. I'll take it one step further. What I've also started to see is CFPs in particular, but a lot of different types of fiduciary advisors deliver that kind of content directly to their clients. And to continue the connection, not just to build it in the first place, but actually continuing deliver, bite-sized advice, Loom videos. So these quick videos, hey, Bill, I was just thinking about you, XYZ, or even more broadcasty, hey, everybody, I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And the clients absolutely love this stuff. And they feel deeply connected to those advisors who are doing that. And honestly, I think every advisor ought to be going in this direction because of the depth of relationship that it makes happen. If you think about scaling your practice and you only talk to your clients 1 or 2 hours a year, that's tough to build depth of relationship and trust.
Yeah.
But if you're sending them a 60-second video every week and they start to see you and that video is relevant and they watch it, et cetera, they're going to feel a depth of connection that you've never experienced before. It's just phenomenal. Now,
most advisors meet with their clients once a year. Depending on what their service cycle looks like, maybe it's twice a year. And so if we're talking from a practice standpoint, maybe not even a relationship building standpoint or anything like that, let's say you have your meeting with your client on February 1st. When is the highest probability that they could get stolen by another advisor, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know. Maximal distance from that meeting, I guess. I'm not sure.
Right. I would say it's either October or it's early January.
Okay. Yeah.
Where it's either they have completely stepped away from you because they haven't heard from you in 6 months. And so now something has happened in the market or something has happened with their finances or someone came out of the woodwork that they saw on TikTok that maybe they're interested in working with. And so they don't have a lot to go on when comparing you to the new advisor, because the new advisor is front and center. They know exactly what's going on, but they're relying on distant memories to remember how good you are as an advisor. And so if you can take the same thing that I just had with my old high school teachers, where they're like, oh, I just talked to you yesterday. We just had I see you all the time. I'm so fresh in their minds, even though I only talk to them once a year. And so I know in their case that if they ever need a financial advisor, I'm the one they're going to call. And I know that for my clients who have the same experience, if they get on the line with another advisor, they will have days and days and days of content to think back to in their very recent memory to say, what has Nate done for me? What has made it worth staying? They don't have to remember 6 months ago. They remember yesterday when I sent them a video on RSUs.
Right. And even though I know from hundreds of conversations with advisors, many of them are not worried about churn, whether they should or shouldn't be. That is not necessarily the top concern. But I do think that this also bridges the gap of generations. So if you think about generational transfer, or if you think about spousal death and retaining the living spouse, it pertains to wallet share, right? You may not have everything, but there's a variety of aspects of the business that can be vastly improved. Referrals. I mean, think about it. If you're not top of mind, how is anyone ever going to refer business to you?
Yeah.
Just luck, pure luck. So I would say this handles all of that. Now, I want to loop back to something before we start to head toward a close on the show, which is something you said when we talked before the show stuck with me. And I think is a question that a lot of advisors will have, or skepticism that advisors have, which is, all those views and impressions are great, super, Nate's internet famous, but what does that do for my business? And you said something that reach doesn't equal conversions was what you had said. And I'd love for you to expand on that and then talk a little bit about how you think about conversions, because clearly you're converting folks. So
yes. Yeah, I mean, I compare myself to creators who have my same general amount of following, and I also compare myself to creators who have far more following. And I look at how many views and engagements and those sorts of things that they have. And there are a number of creators who have 50,000 followers, and they are receiving 4 to 8 times as many views as I do per video.
Woo!
They are, by those top of funnel metrics, they are wildly outperforming me. So why am I converting better? why am I getting more clients? Why am I able to have a more successful business when my videos don't do as well? Well, it's because reach doesn't equal conversions, because people are watching social media for the sake of watching social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you put something fun and entertaining, the amount of cat videos that I have watched all the way through and then scrolled without ever once going to their page, like, it's limitless. That is actually the baseline for social media, is to watch the engaging video and then move on with your life.
Right.
And so you don't have to get a lot of views to have a lot of conversions. The thing that gets conversions is applicability and your ability to explain it simply. Because if you can prove to someone that what you are teaching them is applicable, and then you can explain it in a simple enough way that they can feel like they can either take action or are motivated to take action with you, that's the conversion cycle. That's what actually builds trust. And so that's what I'm doing that is really different from other creators, is I'm building trust. And it's possible to build trust at 20 views, at 50 views, at 500 views, at 7.1 million views. It's possible to build a lot of trust with people. And so you don't have to reach a lot of them, but you have to be focused on being generous and building that trust the way you would as if you were sitting in front of one person.
And
really that's what I do.
And really leveraging relevance and clarity.
Yeah. Well, and I only ever make my videos for one person. I'll make my video for my friend that doesn't want to ask me about the financial problem that they're having. I'll make the video for a client that just got the answers they needed on a financial plan. And I think the answers I gave them were super relevant. But when I'm talking to the camera, I'm only ever talking to one person. And so if one person ever sees that video, that's what it was designed to do. And everyone else is gravy.
So I think that's a gem right there. And I've heard this from other super high level creators. I was reading the guy who wrote Hook Point. I'm going to forget the name, Brendan something, but he worked for Taylor Swift. And he said the thing that he learned from Taylor Swift is that all media, but particularly social media, isn't broadcast. It's one-to-one, just me and you.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that make what Taylor Swift does on social media so magic, because it is all about me and you, one-on-one. Everyone feels like they know Taylor Swift because that's how she talks to them. And I think that's really magic when you're talking about the kinds of stuff you do. Another creator explained it to me. Look, I'm literally putting my client experience, what a client and I would speak about, out into the world. So they're literally getting a sampling of what it would be like to be in a room with me and have that conversation. I thought that was a fantastic way to think about it. It also drops the barrier to, creating content for a lot of advisors if they think about it that way.
Yeah. Well, and advisors are superhumans. Like, we're trust building machines. We're incredibly educated people. Like, this is what we do for a job. And it is so applicable, because if you stop thinking about it as something different and start thinking about it as just doing what you love and adore to as many people as possible, the barrier's gone, because you get to share what you love, you get to share what you adore and what you love talking about with clients. Now you're just doing that on video, and you have this excuse to build your business and to maybe do a little bit of acting or have a little bit of fun on camera. But at the end of the day, you're just having a great time doing what you do best, and it just happens to be on camera.
So with all this success as an advisor and a creator, why give away the keys to the kingdom and share how to do this with everyone? I mean, and you've gone so far as to found an agency that will actually help advisors do this. So why do that?
I've said this a couple of times in different ways throughout this episode, but I have never cared about the numbers, and I've never cared about the reach or anything like that. The thing that drives me forward is making sure that people have access to really effective financial advice. I can only do so much, and I see no situation in which the advisory world is so cluttered that I will suddenly be struggling to get clients if we have a bunch of viral advisors, because there is such an untapped market. And we talk about the great wealth transfer all the time. We talk about how the people who are in their 30s are going to be receiving trillions of dollars before they turn 40. But to actually do that, to actually take part in that and to be able to be the educators, even if you don't get every single one of them as clients, but to help a whole generation that has not been educated financially, that's the priority. And so I know that CFPs are fiduciaries. I know that the advisors that we work with, because we are picky, are people who are really upstanding humans. They are not shilling products that people don't need. And I want those voices to be available to as many people as possible. And so that's why we've systematized it and made it available. And we've done it in a number of ways. We have people who join us as our clients in our agency. And those are the people who receive our entire service. The only thing we don't do is appear on camera. But we also have people who just receive coaching from us or take our course. And for those people who really want to do it themselves or who are just becoming independent, they have the tools they need too. And of course, and this is the best thing ever, by putting it down on paper, I'm getting better. And so it is constantly keeping me at the top of my game. And so if anyone wants to come and take my title of third most followed CFP in the world, come get it, because I'm fighting for it.
I love it. And, I think it really is a truism that the best way to learn is to teach. And I think it's fantastically generous. And any of the advisors in the audience listening, I'd strongly encourage you to check out N2. We'll have a link in the show notes. And, Nate and his partner, Nick, do amazing work. And if you're interested in getting into video creation, they can coach you through from real experts who've got millions of followers and millions of views. That's who you want to learn from. And also, Nate, I know you're on LinkedIn. Are there any other ways that folks could get a hold of you, or are those the best places? Oh, also TikTok, of course, at Nate Hoskin on TikTok. Y'all should check that out because it's amazing. Other places.
Yeah, TikTok is probably the best place to see my full portfolio, for lack of a better word, and really see what I've been up to, because everything goes to TikTok, whereas only some things will go to LinkedIn and that sort of thing. But if you guys ever want to just get in touch, I'm wide open. Shoot me a DM or just schedule a meeting. I have my meeting link in my bio on LinkedIn, and it's just Nate Hoskin CFP. So come find me. I'm always happy to help.
Super. Final question before we leave. What's inspiring you right now? Are there any books or podcasts or ideas that you're working with that are inspiring you as a creator right now?
Yeah, I'm writing a book and I'm really excited for it because it is the culmination of all of the information and all of the education that I've given over the last 3 years. Because when you're making it in 1 minute chunks, it feels a little bit disparate, and it feels challenging when someone says, hey, can you summarize your TikTok real quick? Not a chance. But that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what has me really inspired. And it's going to be called Stored Energy, because that's what's inspiring me about money right now, is the idea of money as our battery. I mean, humans are just solar panels. We're able to create energy when the sun shines. But at some point, whether that's retirement or injury or something else, we're not going to be able to create that energy for ourselves. And so we need to store that somewhere. And that's why we call it saving for a rainy day. And so that's what I'm excited to write about right now.
Well, I'm excited, and let me know when it's available for pre-order, and I will get on that. Nate Hoskin, it has been a blast, and I've learned a ton. And I'm excited to learn more and follow your creator journey going forward. And thanks for being on the Augmented Advisor.
Thank you for having me, John. I hope you have a great day.
You too.